VC と語ろうシリーズ、ボリューム11、Discover Houston, a Thriving Hub for Life Science Innovation をお送りいたします。私はリンクチェーンの原と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。本日はこれから画面にお示ししているプログラムに沿って進めてまいります。ご質問はウェビナーの Q&A 機能からお願いいたします。お時間の都合上、すべての質問へお答えできない可能性がございますので、ご了承ください。また、本ウェビナーでは、ウェビナーの同時通訳機能、英語字幕機能をご利用いただけます。なお、語訳、訳文の欠損などに関する一切の責任は負いかねますので、ご了承をお願いいたします。また、本ウェビナーの録画、録音、画面のキャプチャーは固くお断りをしておりますので、ご了承ください。最後になりますが、ウェビナー終了後に表示されるリンクよりアンケートフォームにお進みをいただき、皆様のご意見、ご感想をお願いいたします。皆様のお役立ていただけるセミナーを開催したくご協力をお願いいたします。それでは、ここからはアクシルキャピタルアドバイザーズ CEO フレッド・シェーンさんにマイクをお渡しします。フレッドさん、よろしくお願いします。
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Hara-san. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Fred Shane, CEO of Axel Capital. I'm privileged today to moderate today's exciting seminar titled Discover Houston, a thriving hub for life science innovation. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our organizer, LinkJ, for hosting this event, and to our esteemed speakers for joining us to share their insights on Houston's rapidly growing life science ecosystem. Houston, as you may know, is home to the Texas Medical Center, the largest medical complex in the world, with more than 50 medical institutions, leading hospitals, research centers, and academic institutions. Houston has established itself as a global leader in cutting-edge clinical care and bringing innovative therapies to patients. Still, despite its immense scale and success, Houston has often been overlooked as a life science hub compared to cities like Boston and San Francisco. This lack of spotlight is precisely what makes Houston a hidden gem, in my view. It offers world-class talent, resources, and opportunities for companies looking to expand into the U.S. For Japan's life science community, discovering Houston comes at a perfect timing. Partnerships for clinical trials, commercialization, and research, Houston stands out as an ideal destination. It provides not only lower business costs and a supportive regulatory environment, but it also provides access to a network of incubators, accelerators, and scientific talents eager to collaborate globally. This seminar is designed to highlight these unique opportunities. Our speakers from TMC, JLabs, and RBL will showcase the breadth of Houston's life science ecosystem and practical pathways for Japanese partners to engage, collaborate, and flourish. To kick off today's program, I'm delighted to introduce you to our first speaker, Dr. Emily Reiser, Associate Director of TMC Innovations Accelerator. Emily will provide us with an overview of Houston's role as an innovation hub and highlight the resources available through TMC. Emily, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fred, for this invitation, and to the LinkJ organizers of the seminar as well. As Fred mentioned, my name is Emily Reiser, and I'm really looking forward to first sharing a little bit more about Houston and why it's such an exciting place to both live and to do business in the life science innovation economy. Then I'll talk a little bit more about the Texas Medical Center's recent collaborations that might be of interest. And we'll then dive into Texas Medical Center's innovation platform, which is a great way for us to talk about how we can engage with companies across the life cycle from discovery all the way through clinical translation and commercialization. I'll weave in a few teasers to get you excited about my fellow co-panelists who will share a lot more about their individual efforts and will definitely highlight the collaborative nature of the City of Houston as we go. I will share my screen and present. Great. So we'll start off with a bit more about Houston itself. It is the 4th largest city in the United States, and it will soon become the 3rd largest city. We have a really vibrant community here in Houston that really reflects the diversity of our city. 1 in 4 Houstonians were born outside of the country. And so in Houston, you'll find a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages, and of course, a lot of different businesses originating from around the world that are coming to Houston. Our main industries are, of course, life sciences and industries like space and energy. And there's a lot of different fun things to do around the city. My favorite thing to do in Houston is eat all the wonderful food that we have from around the world. You can find cuisine of any kind in any region in Houston. And it's a really wonderful place to live and to build a community. One of the main reasons why people come to Houston is to work. And one of those main industries, of course, is life sciences. So we'll focus a bit more on that today. That's what brought me to Houston myself. And here in the front of this image is actually the Texas Medical Center. The skyline behind it is of downtown Houston. So everything you can see in the foreground of this photo is dedicated to the advancement of research, clinical care, and innovation. So you'll see Rice University and the baseball diamond over to the left-hand side, and off just to the right of the picture is J Labs. So all clustered here in this medical city, this entire community will serve over 10 million patients every year. So only 4 million people in the city of Houston, but 10 million patients that we serve each year. So it's a great destination for people to come to get care, to be clinically trained, and then to do research. And all of this environment creates a great platform for anyone looking to develop a new research idea or bring forward a commercial product that is going to involve a decision maker at one of these health systems or improve patient care. And the institutions that are part of the Texas Medical Center are world leading. They are experts across oncology, cardiovascular, neuro, and many other types of disease paradigms. It is the largest cluster of a medical city in the world, and brand names that you know, like MD Anderson, for example, are joined by other world-leading research and clinical enterprises like Baylor College of Medicine, which is also an NCI-designated cancer center. Memorial Hermann is actually the largest in the region, and Houston Methodist is well known for its innovation infrastructure. Just yesterday, UTMB Health announced a brand new initiative related to brain health, and the Texas Heart Institute is one of the birthplaces of the artificial heart, which was again a collaboration with Rice that Paul may mention a little bit later as well. So I hope that here you're taking away that there's a lot of reasons to partner with all of the world-leading researchers and clinical care experts in the Texas Medical Center, and that is what brings a lot of the global economy in the healthcare innovation world through the city of Houston. If we zoom back out, the central TMC campus is shown in the middle. Right next to us is Rice University. All along that main corridor are several different health systems, each with their own research and clinical priorities. TMC Innovation is where JLabs is, and we'll hear a lot more about that from Allison here shortly. And our new endeavor is the green TMC3 campus, which is a translational research campus, and it'll also be where we partner with Paul and his team at Rebel. So here at the Medical Center, you can see the intense density of all of these clinical and research activities. And for those that are looking to partner on things like clinical trials or to bring a product to market, you can quickly see how you can really maneuver from one hospital to another. And our team at the Texas Medical Center is how we look to make that easier for entrepreneurs, for companies, is really by shortening the time it takes to get to the right decision maker at the right institution at the right time. So more to come on that here shortly. Because of this gravitational pull that we have on different global businesses, since 2016, we've established biobridges with different countries around the world. And I'm excited to share that we just recently announced our 6th biobridge with Japan in 2024. And these bridges are intended to be mutual relationships between the Texas Medical Center and a leading agency within each country, where we have a customized bridge and experience where we hope to bring the best of TMC to that country, and we hope to bring the best technologies from TMC back in a bridge both ways. And so here are a few of my colleagues pictured with some great collaborators across all of the different key partners. And just a quick preview, here's a press release from our website that just want to briefly acknowledge our gratitude for Mitsui Fudo-san and the National Cancer Center that are anchoring our initial partnership and will provide that first foray into this relationship. And through this partnership, we're going to be working to bring the resources of the Texas Medical Center to those innovators that are working in oncology and are looking for some US go-to-market insight as they build and translate the technologies. So more to come on that, but excited about this very recent announcement and the future of this growth and partnership as we move forward. This BioBridge is part of our larger initiative. So as I mentioned, we work with leaders from across these different countries, and again, look to make those relationships available to the companies that we work with. So for example, if there's a company that might benefit from first-in-human studies in Australia or market entry through one of these other countries, we'll definitely look to support those efforts and have a few examples of doing that in the past as well. When we think about specifically what these global accelerators really provide to the companies that we work with, we first really focus on understanding how the US healthcare system works. We look to try to demystify the complicated payer system in the US and really point to how things are incentivized differently and how that informs how a company can come to market in the United States. From there, we'll also connect these entrepreneurs directly to key decision makers, clinicians, individuals that can help support a clinical trial, for example, and other regulatory reimbursement and consultants that will bolster their entry to the US. All of this is supported through our TMC Innovation team and our curated network of hundreds of advisors that we bring around really customized to each company for the type of advice and feedback that they need at that time. We've been running these accelerators since 2015, and we were just recently awarded the Pre-Gallion Prize for our efforts in this work. The Pre-Gallion Prize is dubbed the Nobel Prize for Life Sciences, and we were honored this year along other big pharma leaders for our work in the space. So we're very proud that this work and that the companies that we support see success on things like really entering the US market, building a clinical trial, or potentially hiring in Houston to support their growth. We also operate a venture fund out of the Texas Medical Center, and through this venture fund, we do invest globally in early stage startup companies, typically seed to Series B, everything from digital health, medical device, and oncology therapeutics. We have 28 portfolio companies, and we have 3 investments outside the US. And we did a recent deal with a company based out of Ireland. So we're actively investing globally, which not all US-based investors are, and we're eager to continue to do so. We'll not only bring our capital around the company, but we'll also partner with many of the investors that you'll see here to, again, really make sure that our time and our efforts are amplified by these other resources that can be extremely helpful to companies as they grow. One other really unique thing about the state of Texas, for those who are in oncology, we have a $6 billion initiative called CPRIT, the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas. This granting agency will provide funding on the order of $3 million up to about $15 to $20 million for those companies that are coming to Texas to, let's say, run a clinical trial in oncology. And so there's just a lot of resources, beyond advice and beyond go-to-market that our team will provide to companies. These grants are available to companies who are global today and are thinking about setting up a US presence. And there's lots of examples of those types of companies who are coming from abroad to move to Texas, do their trials with partners like MD Anderson, Baylor College of Medicine, UT Southwestern, and beyond. And so there's so much to offer across Houston and across the medical center, and so many different groups to collaborate with. And our team is really here to provide a customized experience to every entrepreneur and every company that we work with to make it easier to navigate through the wealth of opportunity that can be found in Houston. So with that, I'll move a little bit more specifically into the Texas Medical Center's innovation platform. And I've alluded to some of this in the previous part of the talk, but a little bit more specifically for startup companies. These are companies that maybe have a product or a solution and are thinking about coming to the US to bring that technology here for clinical trials, or maybe to implement in a US hospital. And so at a glance, the startup community that we have at the Texas Medical Center, we've now worked with over 450 companies over the last 10 years. Allison will talk a lot more about JLabs and the unique value that it provides for those companies that are looking to set up some lab-based operations. And TMC has also spun out 14 of our own companies, and collectively those companies have all raised now over $6 billion in funding. With this innovation platform, it's our opportunity to get to know entrepreneurs better, figure out how we can be helpful, and then showcase their efforts through presentations, short videos, and anything that we can do to put them in front of the right customer or the right next potential value inflection partner for them. One of the really unique things about the TMC Innovation Platform is the Center for Device Innovation. It is a medical prototyping space where there's 10 companies that are about 0 to 4 years old, all very early, scrappy, building a new medical device. And you're not only in a place where you're around other early stage entrepreneurs and have access to world-class unique prototyping facilities to make whatever device that you can possibly imagine, but you're also plugged into where you might be able to do animal studies. So we've had a company here at CDI who has gone through 16 different iterations of their device and done animal testing in between then in a matter of just 6 months. So the goal here is to make it quick and test it fast and then continue forward building the company. Another key part of the Center for Device Innovation is that we have dedicated entrepreneurs in residence housed here at CDI with 20 plus years of medtech experience that are available to advise the companies that partner here. And this entire space is really the brainchild of Dr. Billy Cohn, who is carrying forward the legacy of the artificial heart that again was started in Houston back in the 60s. And he's taking forward the first total artificial heart replacement that will be able to be put in patients without a driveline very soon. And so it's the combination of physical infrastructure, community, and advisory talent that makes CDI a unique place to start a business or to maybe engage on generation 2 of a medtech prototype. And to continue forward, we're also building a brand new translational research campus that is going to be the heart of this new campus. We are really proud to bring together the institutions that you see here. For the first time, they have shared laboratories, all focused on drug development. And then any company that spins out from here can also spin out into an independent company within the same building. And then even if they outgrow that or outgrow J Labs, they can even move in across the way and be neighbors with Paul over at RBL. And so this is a really unique endeavor, and it's really just the first completed building of what will then become a broader research campus. It's also a place to live, work, and play. This is my little nephew playing soccer on the fields. There's 6 fields that make up the whole parks. And here you'll see Dynamic 1, which is even more laboratory space, including, vivarium and others. And if you want to be neighbors with Paul, you can have a space here as well. And so this is a broader vision of the Texas Medical Center to create a one place to go for anyone looking to partner on a translational research endeavor. And so it's really a unique opportunity. It's a master planned campus that's going to stay true to the entire growth that we've seen across the last 75-year history of the medical center, which is all about collaboration and world-class research and clinical care. That is all going to continue to grow on this campus and together with our partners. Just to bring us back, this is all anchored in this beautiful city of Houston, where we have the opportunity to do important work and look to solve hard problems and do that together with the world-leading experts in clinical care, in research, and we're building this unique platform to leverage those strengths to make an end-to-end curated resource for startup companies that are going to leverage those unique opportunities. And then for those more clinical and commercial stage companies, the Texas Medical Center platform can provide similar resourcing to connect to the phase 1 clinical trial leaders or the key stakeholders and decision makers at each of these hospitals. And really being a part of the community here in Houston is something that I'm really excited about. And as Fred mentioned, it's maybe not the city that you thought of when you were thinking about US market entry, but through the Texas Medical Center's platform and together with our partners, we believe that we can provide differentiated and accelerated business support to life science companies. And we do hope that you'll consider growing with us for anyone who is looking to spend more time in the US market and make a clinical impact with innovation. So I'm gonna stop there and hand it back over to Fred.
Thank you, Emily, for such an insightful overview. Next, I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. Allison Rines, Site Head of J-Labs at TMC. She will be introducing us to J-Labs' initiative to support startups in Houston by allowing them to leverage J&J's global infrastructure. Allison?
Terrific. Thank you, Fred, and thank you so much to our organizers at J-Link. It's really a delight and a privilege to share with you today a bit more about J-Labs. Emily mentioned J-Labs in her presentation and how we sit in space on the Texas Medical Center campus in Houston. And we are one location of J&J's strategic incubator network that works with early stage companies to support them with the right resources to advance their work. So I'm going to share my slides and tell you more about the J-Labs program. Please let me know if there's any difficulty seeing my slides. J-Labs, as I mentioned, is a global network of health innovators that are connected through 11 incubation locations in this global network that are designed to provide multiple different types of support to early stage innovators to advance the important work that they're doing. We say that we are igniting innovation, and what we mean by that is that we are one of a number of different ways that J&J works with and supports early stage innovators. Some of the others that you may have previously interacted with are the partnering arms of J&J or other pharma companies, which do traditional business development type deals in terms of things like licensing agreements. J&J also, secondly, has a venture fund called JJDC that does equity investing. So we are essentially the third branch of J&J's innovation network, where we provide wraparound incubator services to early stage companies who may not yet be ready for their partnering transaction or their equity investment with one of the other parts of J&J. And what they need is that support in moving to their first stop out of academia. So we work with incubators as early as 1 or 2 people in a patent who are looking for a single lab bench or a single desk. And I'll share more about the types of wraparound support that we provide them in a minute. As I mentioned, there are 11 J-Labs locations around the world. 3 of them are located in Asia. And in Houston, we are the J-Labs location for the South and Central US. In terms of the different companies that we have had come through the J-Labs program, the J-Labs program has been around for just over a decade. And in that decade, we have had over 1,000 companies come through the program. Of those 1,000 companies, about a third of them have had some type of formal relationship with J&J, where a formal relationship can be an equity investment, some type of transaction or research collaboration, or other type of agreement with J&J. However, many companies go on to also work with our partners, and we view that as a success as well, as I'll share more about later. Some of the statistics that speak to the JLabs companies that we're especially proud of are located here on the screen. I mentioned the deals and partnerships, and you can see some statistics as well about investment with JLabs companies and their other various achievements. So now let me tell you a bit more about what's involved in the JLabs program and the ways that we work with and support early stage companies. So the type of support we provide in JLabs is designed to equip companies to get started fast without significant funding. So many companies are coming into JLabs with a small amount of seed or grant funding, and they're not able to do things like purchase large, expensive pieces of equipment or access different types of services at market rates. And we have thought systematically about all of the different types of needs that companies have at that stage and work to provide them with these different types of support. We also provide them with know-how and connections, so things like pitch coaching, connectivity to mentors at J&J in the areas of science that they're working on. And these types of support help them to get to know go, no-go decisions more quickly, and also improves bottom line for investors. So we work very closely with investor networks as well. And we consider this to be a real win-win because we're able to provide investors with companies that may be of interest for them to invest in, and we're also able to incubate the companies that they have already invested in. So delving a bit deeper into what some of these different types of support look like. We say that our model is no strings attached. So essentially, when companies come into JLabs, they pay market rent for the space that they use. So most often these are companies who would be renting space somewhere else. But when they do that at JLabs, we provide them with completely modular space. So the companies are able to expand their space, starting with, as I mentioned, a single bench or a single workstation. And just by notifying our team, they can expand to a private office or larger and larger sizes of private offices and private labs as they grow. So completely modular space. We have a network that we call JLabs Navigator, which I'll share more about later, but essentially that is a web-based resource where investors and other partners can see the JLabs portfolio holistically, and companies can gain exposure to investors and other partners through that network. They can also see other companies that are in all of the 11 JLabs sites around the world so that they can collaborate with them if there's an opportunity. Next, we offer all of our JLabs companies what we call a JPAL. And this JPAL is someone in the J&J Research and Development Organization who is working in an area of science that is a focus area for that company. And this person can provide mentorship on the experiments that the company is doing, help them as they're thinking about what types of data to collect, and really coach them in understanding the difference between what makes an interesting science experiment and what makes a compelling data package for a pharma transaction. Next, we offer a network that we call our Investor Hub. And this is a network of VCs and other investors who understand the level of diligence that companies go through when they apply to JLabs. And these investors have put their hand up and said that they would like to meet JLabs companies. And JLabs companies have access to this network on day one. And then finally, we offer companies what we call our Resource Hub, which is a network of trusted service providers who provide their services to JLabs companies at often significant discounts. And these are types of discounts that these companies at their size may not be able to negotiate otherwise, but that can be done on behalf of JLabs. These types of service providers include everything from intellectual property legal services to contract research organizations and many more. So those are just a sampling of the different ways that we support JLabs companies, and happy to take any questions or answer more about that in the question and answer session. So I mentioned that JLabs was no strings attached. And essentially what this means is that companies are completely independent and free of obligation to J&J when they come into JLabs. J&J does not ask to see confidential information. The entire process is non-confidential. JLabs does not have any claim or ownership on any of the JLabs company residents' intellectual property. It does not have any sort of a first right of refusal or any other type of obligation from the resident companies. It does not take equity and so forth. When I say no strings attached, we say that we mean it in the sense that many of our JLabs companies have gone on to partner with our other pharma peer organizations, like the ones you see on the screen. These are all examples of organizations that JLabs companies have partnered with, and we view this as a point of pride because it speaks both to the rigor of the selection process required to come into JLabs. So the fact that the ecosystem understands what a selective program this is, and also it speaks to the experience and the mentorship and the growth that companies experience while they are in the JLabs program. JLabs provides many opportunities for companies to expand their growth. And as a JLabs company, when companies join, they get access on day one to a suite of public and private events. So every JLabs physical location hosts events with investors, scientific leaders, others who can support and help the companies stay connected. And many of those meetings are also investor meetings, both in the forms of curated one-on-ones through the JLabs network and also through larger scale events. As an aside, at JLabs here at TMC this year, we hosted J&J senior leaders for an event in immunology earlier this year. We hosted an oncology event with J&J senior leaders just last month. And these are great ways for companies in the ecosystem to engage with these leaders and understand their thoughts about the future of the field. So we often get questions about the selection criteria and how companies can become part of JLabs. As I mentioned, this is a rigorous process that involves review and connectivity with the team and the science. But the important piece to note is that no company is ever really too early for JLabs. We only ask that companies are registered to do business here in Texas and that they're incorporated. And beyond that, we're here to be that first step and provide that support in their early stages. Companies are asked to submit a non-confidential application. That application is reviewed by J&J scientific leaders, and then the company is notified of the decision. I mentioned earlier JLabs Navigator, which is our global network of JLabs companies. And this is a public website that you can access simply on the internet. It is a database that includes every JLabs company that is either currently in the program or has previously come through the program in any location. And you can filter by location, by therapeutic area, so pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and areas within those designations, and can provide a great mechanism for both investors to get a sense of the JLabs portfolio and for companies who are looking to collaborate with JLabs companies. Let me conclude with a note on a special program that we call our Quickfire Challenges. So this is a program that we run through JLabs globally, which is essentially a call for proposals on an area of science where we're seeing particular growth, and we're looking to engage with innovators doing transformative work in this area. So several of these come up every year. They come up periodically on various topics where J&J has a particular strategic interest or some other area of focus to support. And these challenges invite companies to submit proposals. Those proposals are then reviewed, and there are various prizes attached to the winners of those challenges, including things like senior J&J mentorship, cash prizes, and various other kinds of awards. Regardless, it's a great way if you see a quickfire challenge that's a fit for you to have your company's work gain visibility through the review process. So I mentioned quickfire challenges that may be a fit for you. And as it happens, we are actually currently running a quickfire challenge focused on smart, healthy aging in Japan. So I've included the QR code for the quickfire challenge here. You can see some of the prizes along the side. So I would encourage anyone on the call who is doing work in this area to please reach out and learn more about this particular quickfire challenge. Let me bring us back to JLabs and specifically to the JLabs at TMC location. We're so excited to connect with innovators who are considering a move to Houston, looking to learn more about Houston, who are based all around the world. So I've showed on this slide some of the different ways that you can connect with us. We'd be delighted if you have an interest either in JLabs in Houston or globally to reach out and to take your questions. Thank you all. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our hosts.
Thank you, Allison, for sharing J&J's Open Innovation Initiative, and also for showing us its important footprint in Houston. Our final speaker before the panel discussion is Dr. Paul Watton, CEO of RBL LLC. RBL focuses on translating life science innovations into impactful therapies by leveraging its strong ties to Rice University, which is located at the heart of Texas Medical Center. Paul?
Thank you, Fred, and thanks to everyone for attending this call. And I just wanted to give some background to what we're doing here at Rice University and why it's important for biotechnology development down in Houston. And this idea about creating an RBL, something that actually Emily quoted very nicely, which was make it quick and test it fast for biotechnology products coming out of our bioengineering school. And Houston itself was the source of the world's first artificial heart, which was developed by Michael DeBakey and Bill Akers, who actually was a Rice professor and is arguably one of the first cell technology devices in history. And it was developed in 1963. So for over 60 years now, the city of Houston has been actually practicing cell therapeutics one way or the other. And what I saw here was a center of excellence with access to people like the Texas Medical Center and the various institutions there. And during the COVID crisis, a company I was running managed to take a cell therapy product, which was an engineered T-cell, from concept to clinic in less than 3.5 years. And we could only do that by working with people at the Texas Medical Center and MD Anderson specifically. And it was just an incredible journey to be able to do that so rapidly with very high quality outputs. And in fact, the first patient that we treated in that trial for metastatic melanoma was a complete responder. So the quality of the product was reflected in the quality of the outcome for a very sick patient, which is really why we're all here. So I'm going to share my screen now. Is that showing?
No, Paul.
No. Okay. Does that show?
No, we're not seeing it. Let's see.
How about that?
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I'm going to talk to you about RBL LLC, which is only 3 months old. It was created out of the Rice Biotech Launchpad, which is an academic group within Rice. And we are an independent organization that is funded by Rice University and soon to be other investors. And what we are is a venture creation studio, and we're based in Houston. And what we're trying to create here is basically the next generation of drug delivery technologies for the biologicals age. So we're entering a new era of pharmaceutical development where more products now coming out of the FDA are biological products than, I believe, small molecules. But all of those biologicals do have a challenge with drug delivery, and we're really looking at the next generation of drug delivery technologies, and we're creating a center of excellence here at the Rice Biotech Launchpad. We're aiming to leverage UpRH grants that we've received, intellectual property from the bioengineering school, primarily from Omid Vesa right now. We created a world-class advisory board, which includes people like Bob Langer. And our goal is to create 3 startups per year and develop companies where we make seed funding available for those companies. So what we are is a for-profit entity partially owned by Rice. We are happy to say that we are situated on the Texas Medical Center Helix Park development, where J&J Labs are one of our neighbors. And we're really pleased to be affiliated with the group at Texas Medical Center that Emily works with as well. And our goal is to take IP from the Rice University and develop companies, but to make sure that founders of those companies actually benefit from services that are provided by executives who've been there and done it before, in terms of being able to offer financial services, business development services, helping companies design their first clinical trial, HR, and giving capital sourcing services out as well for companies that want to develop. And we will receive founders' equity in each of these startups. And what's happened in the 3 months since we started was that we're actually having other institutions within Texas, the Texas University system, come to us and starting to ask about the model we've developed. Now, what's unique about us is that we have a deal flow of technologies coming out of Rice, and we're developing companies with what we think is a higher degree, a higher probability of success. We have networks, and these networks exist because of some of the people we have affiliated with our advisory board, people like Bob Langer, people like Kevin Sheridan, who's head of healthcare banking at Jefferies, and Josh Richardson, who's actually one of the Goldman Sachs partners who does venture capital. And what we're bringing to this is a process which enables us to pick and develop what we think will be early wins. And what we want to do is to repeat the experience I had, which is taking a product from concept into the clinic and treating our first patient within a 3 to 4 year time frame. And how we're going to do this is we are going to solve big problems that others cannot address. And this actually comes to us really because the group at Rice gets a lot of inquiries from people working at medical centers throughout Houston, where they want, this is surgeons and physicians who actually want an answer to a delivery problem they have for a program that they may have well developed in their own research labs, but where they need bioengineering solutions to actually get those products to the patient. And in fact, this is a really key first step, because the first question I ask any PhD student at Rice when they're talking about a program that can potentially lead to a product that can go into a patient is, so how many physicians have you spoken to? And this is one of the key things that we want to make sure we do, is get clinical input into a product idea from day one and identify what that pathway to the clinic is going to be. The second thing is to make sure that the market is going to be able to support a product. And we want to make sure that the disease we're going after and the approach to the clinic we're taking is going to be supported by basically a good strategic planning process. And this is something that we're bringing to the organization at Rice in order to make sure that if you plan properly and have a milestone-driven approach to managing a company right from day one, it's going to improve your probability of success. And lastly, using what I call third generation or strategic R&D to make sure that every step of the way, when you're making decisions, you're doing a market check. When you're going into phase 1 studies, you do a market check. When you're starting your preclinical program, you're doing a market check just to make sure that what you're developing is going to have a patient population that will benefit significantly from your discovery. And this is how we did it. So for anybody working in an academic institution today, one of the challenges actually in commercializing technology is sometimes the amount of time it takes to obtain a license from that university. And I've heard it's not untypical for people to have to take about 18 months to license something out from a tech transfer office at a university. But what we did with RICE was to work with the technology transfer office for all of these patents to give us a first offer on over 130 patents from RICE, where we have a fast license template. So what this enables us to do is literally to create a new company with all the intellectual property it needs from RICE and create a company around that within 24 hours of actually having the idea, rather than 18 months to negotiate an individual license. So we have a very cooperative alliance with the tech transfer office, but enables us to commercialize the intellectual property much more rapidly. We have an advisory board at RICE that helps us discuss some of the concepts we have. Bill McEwen from the Texas Medical Center, who's the CEO there, is on that advisory board. And we have a board of directors now for the RBL LLC. And our goal here is to target 3 companies per year, about 10 companies in 3 years to form. And our goal is to focus on getting clinical entry within 3 to 5 years from conceiving a product. And this is where Houston comes in, because you could not do this in Boston and you could not do this in Cambridge. And I say that very confidently because only in Houston, where we're sitting today, where our offices are in the Texas Medical Center, we look out over an MD Anderson facility, and we're in the same building as a Baylor College facility. And we can access those institutions just by walking across the street, and we can design clinical programs with world-class physicians from day one. And actually, in the case of complex cell and gene therapies, there are numerous companies down here that specialize in CDMO work. And there's actually one quite close to us, which is a joint venture between MD Anderson and Resilience called CTMC, where we can actually develop programs that we want to get into the clinic with a very experienced team of cell engineers over there. This is what we're trying to help companies with. Every biotech company has the same issues, going from research, manufacturing, product development, reg affairs, all the way through to business development and communications. And we have experienced executives in each of these roles within the RBL LLC that can help companies as they form. We're offering our founders a lot of benefits from assessing whether or not people are developing a target product that fits a profile that's going to be successful in the market. I'm a big believer in planning. I think that operational planning is one of the key to successes and actually de-risks companies early on. We've got a great network of key opinion leaders. We've got, I think, a really good access to people who can make a difference to these early stage companies through whether it's MDs or PhDs or VCs. And we've got experienced executives who have now actually come on board to help us guide companies. So one of the things we're doing in Houston is building up a CEO pool who can help companies start. And beyond that, there's a long-term opportunity to grow the talent pool in Houston to get programs into the clinic, but also form alliances with other groups in other countries and other states in the United States who want to take advantage of some of the tech programs we have at RICE, but also learn from us in terms of how we can actually get programs into the clinic rapidly, because at the end of the day, treating patients early is all that matters. I'll skip this timeline, but basically we've got a 10-year plan ourselves, and we do foresee a day when we can turn Houston into the real alternative to Boston and to San Francisco. There's so many technologies and opportunities down here in Houston that are missed typically because most of the major financial backers focus on the East and the West Coast, and we're building the South Coast here to make sure that we can compete. So in order to do this for us, what we're trying to do here is to act as a co-pilot with our founders. We've got the network that we need. We're working closely with people within the Texas Medical Center. We are lucky that we have a world-class facility now in the Texas Medical Center Helix Park development. We've got access to world-class physicians, and we think that in actual fact, there's a huge advantage to being able to operate all of your early stage development within one zip code. And that's what we offer here. It's everything you need to develop a product to get it into a phase 1 clinical trial and get a yes/no answer as to whether or not it works quickly, we can do in one zip code in Houston. The other thing that's actually true, and I speak from experience here, but the cost of doing business in Houston with this world-class ecosystem we have is about 1/2 of the cost of either Boston or the West Coast, San Francisco. So your dollars actually go further and faster here in Houston than other cities. And our goal here is to create a portfolio of companies, probably around 10 within 3 to 5 years. That's just from the Rice IP, but what's happened since is we're starting to attract interest from collaborations with other institutions within the Texas university system. So with that, I'd just like to thank everyone for listening. I think this is a really good discussion. I thank Fred for organizing it. There's so much going on here. For anyone who hasn't been to Houston, I would suggest that it's a good idea to get on a plane and come and visit this city, which is going to be the leader, I think, in biotech in the next decade and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. No, it's very exciting to see that new initiatives like yourselves are popping up in Houston constantly. Now I would like to move on to the panel discussion part of our seminar. This is to have some discussions among all our speakers to explore further how Japanese life science players can take advantage of the resources available in Houston and also how to navigate accessing them. So with that in mind, I've come up with a few questions for the panelists to address. Yeah, while we were speaking, there's a question that came into the chat, and that was, that really goes to what I hear often from our Japanese audience time and time after again is that most people in the medical field, and I don't think this is just Japan, but overseas, when they hear Houston, they immediately associate with cancer research and, of course, MD Anderson, because it's such a big brand. But as I think Emily had a slide showing a very wealth of resources other than MD Anderson that's available. So I wanted to, maybe start with Emily. Maybe if you could kind of delve into that a little, one step deeper and tell us about some wonderful resources other than MD Anderson and cancer research that we have in Houston.
Yeah, for sure. And I will start by saying MD Anderson is such a big brand because of the excellent work that they do and because of the unique infrastructure that Paul mentioned. The phase 1 clinical trial infrastructure that MD Anderson offers is really unique and special. And so definitely, worthy of the attention that it does receive. But, you'll find that moving beyond MD Anderson, but staying within oncology, there's still a ton of other amazing resources across the rest of the medical center. So like I mentioned, Baylor College of Medicine is NCI designated cancer center, does, even more research than MD Anderson does across oncology and many other things as well. Baylor itself brings in about half of the NIH dollars of the entire medical center campus. So it's just a huge research powerhouse in oncology, of course, and beyond. And then Houston Methodist is really trying to rise and emerge in oncology now too, and they're bringing their digital infrastructure excellence into that lens as well. So more to come there from Houston Methodist in oncology, I would expect. So that being said, yeah, of course, beyond oncology, there's lots of other great areas of focus. Cardiovascular is another huge one there. Houston Methodist, Texas Heart, Baylor College of Medicine are some of those more leading players, but all of the other institutions do participate heavily there. And then neuro, really at UT Health and UTMB in particular, but again, with great representation across lots of experts at Houston Methodist and at Baylor as well there. And so really, if you come to Houston for MD Anderson, you'll have a lot more to stay for, I would say. And if that's the first entryway into coming to Houston, then that's a great place to start. But for some entrepreneurs or for some people who think they might come here to work with MD Anderson, sometimes we find that that's not the right first partner for them. And there's still plenty more to do here beyond that. So we often say, if you can both work with a cancer hospital like MD Anderson, but also a larger system like Houston Methodist or Memorial Hermann, and maybe even a cancer center like Texas Children's, which is the largest in the country. If you can do it across all of those, you can kind of go to market all across the US. So it's really just one dense place to find a lot of different experts and a lot of different potential customers or people to engage on a clinical level.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, my first exposure to Houston was in fact with MD Anderson, and it was for a melanoma product. And we actually elected to run a single site study for our first program in malignant melanoma. And that's kind of going against the grain a little bit with respect to doctrine in our business. But when you actually look at the numbers, so in the case of malignant melanoma or skin cancer in general, MD Anderson sees as many patients in 1 year as the next 5 centers combined. So you can get a huge pool of patients just by dealing with one center. And as a scientist, I'd like to reduce variability wherever possible. Working with a single high quality site makes a real difference to being able to get those answers about whether or not a new technology works sooner rather than later. And then with respect to the other institutions, we actually do some work with a cardiothoracic surgeon at Baylor, who's absolutely fantastic. But Rice has always had a traditional relationship with Baylor College as a result of the work that DeBakey and Akers did in the early days on the artificial heart. And today, actually, Rice announced, this is independent of the Launchpad, but there's an AI initiative announced today between Houston Methodist and Rice University. So we work with a lot of people across the system within the Texas Medical Center, but there really isn't a therapeutic area, I think, that TMC doesn't like, but where they can add huge value to companies wanting to develop products.
Great, thank you. Allison, maybe would you like to say a few words about something other than MD Anderson?
Sure. So Emily already gave a very comprehensive overview of some of the different resources available. And Paul just touched on the medical device piece. So maybe I'll go a bit deeper on medical devices and share that each of the JLabs locations around the world reflects the ecosystem that it is based in. And is a different center of excellence in certain areas, depending on the particular strengths of that ecosystem. Here in Houston, the JLabs location, in terms of its company makeup, is split fairly equally between pharmaceuticals and medical devices. But we are one of only 2 JLabs locations that has a particular center of excellence in medical devices. So we have a dedicated prototyping lab with equipment like 3D printers and lasers and so forth that are designed for medical device companies. And we do that because Houston is especially distinguished in the JLabs global network because of its expertise in medical devices.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is also something that I've heard from a lot of people, is regarding some common pitfalls that foreign companies attempting to relocate to Houston. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of mistakes being made, but I think that might be very illuminating to our audience here. So maybe I can start this one with Allison. What have you seen as a common mistake being made by companies?
Sure. So we've had a number of companies coming to Houston from both other JLabs locations. So companies based either in Europe and Asia who are looking to have their US footprint. And either they're already part of the JLabs global network and based at another site, then can easily transition, or they're coming directly from academia in another country or another region and are looking to set up their first location here in Houston. Emily in her presentation already covered so many of the reasons why that's a logical thing to do. And I have seen many companies do it very, very well. So I'll share a few comments about when it sort of goes well, and then, as you mentioned, common pitfalls that could be avoided with a bit of planning. So when I have seen it go well, companies are typically coming in with a very clear idea of what they're looking to achieve. Because of the wealth of resources available, it's easy if a company isn't focused to become spread across too many different areas. So I would say focus drives results would be the number one piece of advice that I would share. Also, staying connected in the ecosystem. There's so many different partners that are available to support companies. And a key factor in that success is making sure that companies stay networked. This can be either through personal relationships where introductions lead to additional introductions, but also through attending events and other types of ways to stay networked. When I've seen companies run into problems, it's often the converse of those, where they come in without a clear focus. They are too ambitious in terms of trying to do too much too fast. And that can be a problem as well. So I would say get that first foothold and then build in a rigorous way from there.
Thank you. Emily, would you like to add something?
Yeah, those are good points made by Allison, and absolutely agree there. I think that maybe once one has already had a focused ask and started executing on that, the next thing that we really come up against is how to power up the team to both manage what they're already building in their home country and the new opportunities that the medical center in the US market really allows for. And so, either the team deciding to dedicate time in market in the US and really building those relationships and making them sticky and executing on things like trials that will last, beyond their market visits, or being really focused on that right first hire to be their representative in the US and who can carry those relationships forward. And usually it's a combination of the two. And so we really counsel a lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with to figure out how they themselves, as the founders, are going to think about managing usually more time in the US than they're initially planning, and then also really thinking through what that first US hire may need to look like, or directly connecting them with potential hires or companies that we've seen it do really well so that they can gain some insights there. So if it's all about execution, it's all about the team. And so we spend a lot of time working with companies on that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And Paul, I know that RBL was just set up, but I know that you've seen, from the other side, from the startup side, as well as other angles. So maybe you might want to add a few more things about, common pitfalls that you've seen, maybe not, particular to Houston, but when companies try to explore new markets and so forth?
Well, I think Emily mentioned this, and so did Alison, but you've really got to pace yourself and have a plan when you do it. So
Yeah.
I think coming with a plan is the most important thing, and knowing what some of the limitations are. You know, key hires is one. There is an opportunity to bring people to this city and train them up, for example, and the scientific talent in this city is absolutely fantastic. There's a number of institutions that have great science programs that can support the development of the company. But I think that in terms of management, a company moving into this city probably would want to have one of their own homegrown managers come in as part of that. The other thing that I think is often missed, in fact, I would ask the question, why wouldn't you come to Houston first before you go somewhere else? Because moving abroad, and I've done it myself, it really doesn't matter where you go to live and work. You've got to be able to adapt. So you've got to be adaptable to come in. But here, the communications that exist between Houston and Japan or Europe or South America or even down to Australia, I think they're the best there are. And you can go to either coast very quickly from here. And I think that's one of the drivers behind CMOs like Lonza or Catalent, particularly those offering cell and gene therapy programs. They've based themselves down here because you've got two effective airports that can transport anything anywhere in the world pretty quickly. So the communications aspect of this city are brilliant. And then the other thing we've got down here, which I think is important, is that the actual network of communications tech companies is to support our own growth is also really, really strong. So I'm a big fan, obviously. I'm thinking of moving here myself at some point.
Oh, I didn't know you had already you hadn't moved already. But yeah, just to add another point about Houston, I mean, it's really advantageous to at least U.S. citizens that there's no state income tax, as well as I think Emily mentioned earlier how the cost of living is relatively low compared to other big cities and so on and so forth. So, and it's a fun city and warm also. So that's not just my 2 cents to add to the Houston's appeal.
And great sports teams as well.
Absolutely, exactly. Okay, before we veer off too far off tangent, maybe I can throw out another question, which also covers something that came in from our audience. As how can a Japanese player, start the process, start accessing? Is there like a centralized department or coordinator? Maybe Emily, I can start off with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely LinkJ is a great group that we're already working with, and excited to do more together. And then for our new program, we're excited to have some success stories come out of that here in the near future, but just getting that kicked off right now. So for anyone looking to figure out how to navigate all these resources, I do invite you to reach out to me. I put my email in one of the answered questions if you'd like to see that, or you can contact me through the LinkJ organizers, and I'd be happy to share more resources. I'd ask that per Alison's advice, you be as specific as you can be with what you're hoping to gain out of learning more about Houston. And I'm really happy to spend more time and help you figure out where to go next. So please do reach out if there's any further questions.
Great. And yeah, I think how I understand, all three of you and other, there are other players and important players in the Texas Medical Center community, and from what I understand, you guys communicate all the time, and share resources and make referrals to each other. So but at the same time, I'm sure Alice and Paul, you guys would welcome any questions or anybody reaching out to you guys. correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
Yep.
I'm both.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, we're very connected, and we would
Yeah.
welcome outreach.
Yeah. And I think J&J has the innovation group here in Tokyo as well. So I'm sure you guys stay connected that way as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I can just seamlessly like transition into the Q&A part. One question, I was very curious. This is a good one. Is from someone is are there any cases of successful collaboration involving Japanese players? Maybe Allison, would you like to start with that one?
Those successful cases of Japanese players, specifically in Houston, or
Oh, let's either way. I think Houston's a difficult one, right? Because that's probably the reason why we're having this session, to introduce the community.
I can speak to a couple of companies that are coming from Asia, not specifically from Japan, but there are two companies that come to mind who have set up their U.S. Operations here at JLabs at TMC in the last year. One of these was a fairly well-established, think sort of Series C company based in Asia, and another one was very, very early, sort of pre-Series A, and both of them chose Houston as their first U.S. presence for all the reasons that have been discussed, and then in coming to JLabs were attracted for the various reasons like the modular space and the mentorship and so on. Both of them have grown their U.S. operations in the last year. The one that was in early commercial stage and approaching later commercial stage has expanded, and then the early one has had some significant scientific milestones.
Okay, great. Emily, Paul, either of you have any experience with Japanese players, companies coming into?
Well, in our particular space, which is cell and gene therapy and bioengineering, then Fujifilm have a facility down here in Texas.
Right.
And then another more indirect one, we're really excited that at Helix Park campus in the collaborative building, we partner with Kyoji Tsuchikama, who's a researcher at UT Health. He's one of the world's experts in antibody drug conjugates, and one of the technologies that he developed at UT Health spun out into a new company that we funded at the medical center. So we're certainly looking to have more success stories, but those are just a few to get us started.
Yeah, I see. I think therefore it's an opportunity, right, for Japanese players to take more advantage of Houston and the resources. But thank you for the question, and thank you for all of your answers. I got a few. Okay, there are a few questions to specific speakers. This one is for Paul. Many Japanese bioventures seem to be aiming to go IPO. Siglion, Okata, and Veloxis have been acquired, but were these ventures aiming to be acquired by a large company from the beginning? I guess, were they built to be acquired, or I think that's the question.
No.
Okay.
And this is something that I tell everyone: good companies are bought, they're not sold. So it's really important to focus on developing something that you believe is going to make a real difference to patients. And if it's a good product, then someone's going to show an interest and potentially buy the company. You should never build a company, in my opinion, you should never build a company just to sell it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, some questions like disappeared here, but let's see. Here's another one for Paul, actually. You're a popular guy. Well, when will you exit your investment in the seed phase? Sell it in Series A or hold on to it until later? Interesting.
We're going to keep it.
But I think, I mean, as a venture capital manager here, I think it's a very commonplace answer, but it depends. I mean, there are many variables that you have to consider before making decisions like that. So I think that's case. But
so we actually so RBL LLC, we will own a percentage of any company we create that comes out of the IP portfolio from day one, and then the seed funding goes in separately. So our intent is to be long-term investors in the company we create.
Right. Yeah, maybe Allison, you can, kind of shed light from, JLab's perspective, how you guys, see your portfolio companies or tenants, or however the companies that is there like a specific like objective for J&J to achieve? I know you touched upon it on your in your presentation, but it's no strings attached, but at times they go into licensing agreements with J&J, so it's more about opportunity for for the companies. But I just wanted to see if you could shed light on that point.
Sure. So the overall mission of JLabs is to support and equip early stage entrepreneurs. And through that process at JLabs, companies have the chance to get to know J&J, and J&J has a chance to mutually get to know the companies and watch them and support them and coach them to be the best that they can be as they're growing. And then by the time a company is ready to start thinking about partnerships, that relationship is already there. And like I mentioned in the presentation, sometimes that right fit is with J&J, and sometimes it's with other partners. But we view the success of the program as being determined by the fate of our companies, not necessarily just the companies that come to partner with us.
Right. Okay. Actually, a question came in just, kind of related to this point. How long, so this is to you, Allison, how long is the expected period to implement the results obtained from collaborators, especially for new modalities such as gene therapy? Additionally, could you provide examples of collaboration with in-house drug discovery projects?
So when you say implement the results, it sounds like this question may be asking more broadly outside of JLabs, what partnering with J&J looks like. And so that's a much broader topic. One comment I'll make about JLabs in terms of timelines is that we often get asked what the average time of residency is in JLabs. And the answer, as you said before, is, and in many cases, is it depends. Here at the TMC JLabs location, we have an average residency time of about 2 years, but there's some pretty wide margins on either side. And the reason for that is we're looking to incubate companies to an inflection point, and the goal is for them to outgrow JLabs. So when companies outgrow JLabs, it's often because they've hired enough people that they need to move into their own space, or they need their own dedicated things like clean rooms, or the ability to do animal work on site, and so on. And again, we view that as a success because then the companies have moved on and grown into their next phase of development.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for another question, but yeah, this is actually something I, from me actually, that I wanted to share with you three is, why do you think Houston hadn't been really discovered, or hasn't been that visible of a life science hub until very recently, right? That's it's always a question that I get asked. So maybe Emily, I mean, you can share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, sure. I've been in Houston for 11 years, and it's really changed a lot over that time period. And we'll see what else Paul wants to say here. But a lot of people talk about how Houston feels today, how Boston felt in the early days, and that, really exploded because of the proximity to the academic research and, the focus on excellent clinical care. and then a lot of growth that happened over maybe a 20-year period. And what we're looking to do in Houston is condense that into something that sounds more like a 10-year period. And we, as someone who, has lived through the first 10 years, let's say, of this transition, going from, 10 years ago, nobody could tell me as a scientist how to take the next step in developing a new drug idea, or who else. There was nobody else I could look to ask for feedback who had already taken a drug into the clinic or even sold to pharma. And now that's much more accessible and much more plentiful. And a lot of people will talk about a culture of commercialization and really a mindset among the research faculty, the clinical trialists, and the executive talent, and all of the talent that's a part of that community, to think about commercialization at the research stage and, demand that work be done and look to partner to do that work. The commercialization offices are really important in that process as well. So there has been a pretty big culture shift over the last 10 years, and a lot more is still going to happen in the next several years. And so we've always been excellent in research and clinical care, but we haven't been dedicated enough at all of the things in between until recently. So that's how I'll start.
Great. Would you like to add anything, Paul?
Yeah, so I've spoken to a lot of people who've come down to see me who hadn't been to Houston before, and when they see particularly Helix Park, I've had senior executives from drug companies say, when you first contacted me about Houston and the opportunity down there, it was only when I saw Helix Park that I really understood what we can achieve down here. But I think one of the reasons is because if you look historically at our industry, so at one point, the area around Philadelphia was the center of the drug business in this country for a while. And then Boston started developing the biotech industry. And over the course of 2 decades, if you go to Boston now, it's big pharma is everywhere. But 20 years ago, it was nowhere to be seen in the Boston area. And I think what's happened now is that if you look at Houston, more recently with the advent of checkpoint inhibition, for example, in the treatment of cancer, we have a Nobel Prize winner himself who lives and works in Houston. In fact, is in the same building as Emily, I believe. And we're entering this new era of biologicals where Houston doesn't have a history in small molecules like the Philadelphia area would have had. That's yesterday's news. They weren't part of the first generation of biotech, but this city is very much front and center in this new era of biology. So I think we're going to see that change as a result of some of the technical advances that have been made down here in this city.
Great. Thank you. I think, we're pushing against time here. So I'd like to, go to the closing part. Thank you, everyone, from the audience for excellent questions, and to all our speakers for their thoughtful answers. So to conclude today's session, I'd like to hand over to Hayashi-san at LinkJ. Thank you, everyone, and I hope a lot of good connections and opportunities will be made from here forward. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Fredson, and for the excellent event. And I'm Miko Hayashi from LinkJ, and I'm going to deliver some closing remarks for today's excellent session. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the speakers, panelists, for insightful presentation and panel discussion. So today we had over 100 viewers, so which is fantastic as well. And today we learned a lot about the ecosystem in Houston centered around medical excellence in the area, which include the community that support the startup companies and facilities for startup incubation. and also the programs and the resources platforms that startup company can utilize. So I believe that those elements make the Houston area a great and attractive entry point for startup company to start their business in the US. So for the audience, for anyone who like to, who are interested in the Houston area, I'd really encourage you to contact the speakers and also maybe Fredson. And if you need any assistance, LinkJ could be of your help. So with that, I would like to conclude today's session. And again, thank you all very much for joining and the excellent presentation. And I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.